Hello, it's Carrie Bergen-Geisel here. And today I have somebody that I want to introduce you to. Stephanie is a holistic nutrition coach. And I met her at a women's group and we instantly connected because we have so much in common. And I thought, how about we actually interviewed each other. So she interviewed me a couple weeks back, and I'm interviewing her to share with my wonderful people. And so without further ado, I want to introduce you all to Stephanie. So
Oh,
Stephanie, can you please introduce yourself to those people who have never met you before?
sure. Thank you. And thank you for having me here. Right. We did instantly connect in our group because I think we have a lot of similar thoughts around health and wellness and supporting women. And so that's why I think that's why we magnetized each other into each other. So I'm a holistic nutrition coach and I'm a wellness stylist because I truly believe that health is about the whole package, right? We can't just be one thing. We can't just be nutrition. We can't just be working out. We can't just be walking around the block. It has to be a whole package. So I work with women primarily 40 plus, and I help them take the 40 plus symptoms, which are vast and varied, and I help them pick a couple that are kind of really bothering them the most, and we flip those and we turn them into their superpower. And then there's a whole ripple effect from that into their whole body and life and everything around them.
Lovely. And I do have another question in mind, but before I do, can you just tell me what exactly is a wellness stylist? What does that mean?
So a wellness stylist is because everybody is unique. And we can't have, I'm always like, we can't have a cookie cutter program. It has to be unique to each
Mm.
woman that I see. So we style your wellness plan. So some women,
Okay.
I had one woman who, she said, I've got the nutrition down pat. I don't need to talk about the nutrition. What I need to talk about is my lifestyle. And so she and I set up a plan for her. And one of her key pillars was to get her kids on the bus every morning on the school bus. She physically wanted to get them on the school bus. So we came up with a wellness plan that made sure that she started her day off the way she wanted it to start. She had planned her nutrition into her day, but the most important step was that she wanted just to get the kids on the school bus. And so we style something that's very unique to each person, because we're not all cookie cutters. We're all different. We all have different histories and backgrounds, and our bodies digesting food differently. And so that's why I call myself a wellness stylist.
I love the term, and it really stands out because it makes you think, "Ooh, what's that?" And I love the way you explained it too, and, like, you're talking my language, that's exactly how I feel too, so that's wonderful. So tell us about your journey to becoming a holistic nutrition coach.
I've always been interested in food. I mean, I have a picture of myself that I found that my parents gave me recently, actually, and it's me in front of the easy bake oven. That's how I started. That's how I started with the
That's so
prepackaged little
cute.
cakes that we would.
Yeah.
And so I've always been drawn to food. So I actually
Okay.
started my son when he was about 18 months old. My first son, we discovered that he had a gluten sensitivity, and
Mhm.
so 25 years ago, gluten-free bread was horrendous, and I had to figure out how to make gluten-free bread, how to make
Yeah.
how to make gluten-free muffins. So I had, scourged for recipes that really weren't out there. So I had to start developing my own recipes, came up with a slam dunk of a bread recipe.
Nice.
Um, and that's really what started me on the path of looking at food very differently, and then discovered that the reason he was probably colicky was because I had a gluten sensitivity. And so
Oh.
when nursing him, I wasn't processing my food properly, passing on the nutrients properly to him, which was causing gas and bloating, and just not like he actually had more personality changes in him than digestion. So it was really that was really my first foray into, oh my gosh, food affects mood. It was a really, I mean, it's not just
Yeah.
when people get angry, but it actually, he would go from this really nice, calm, placid kid to like the Tasmanian devil, where he would be. And today he's like the calmest, most chill person in the world that you would ever see. But oh my gosh, like he would fly off the handle, and you'd be like, wow, who is this kid? When he was gluten free, nice and
Uh,
even. Yeah,
Isn't it awesome when you have those light bulb moments with food and you kind of go, "Oh yeah, that's why we eat." I remember one of my first times and we were in New Zealand doing a killer hike. And I was so depleted. Like we had, hiked up this really big mountain and I was exhausted. And we stopped for a break and we had some food. And as I was eating my granola bars and trail mix and that kind of thing, I felt my body coming back to life. And I'm like, that was my first aha moment is like, oh yeah, food's fuel.
yeah,
And we know that, but to actually feel it and experience it is so
yeah,
cool.
yeah. Yeah,
Cool.
that's and then you're right. That's the awakening moment for you when you realize, oh my gosh, this is making a huge difference. And then
Yeah.
and then the opposite, right? When we eat something that isn't,
Mm.
okay, yeah, I felt that. I don't need to do that again.
Yep, exactly. So what made you decide to work with women 40 plus?
Well, I had been kind of dealing like I started off teaching cooking, like teaching cooking classes on Facebook actually
Oh,
about 5 years
cool.
ago, sharing it. And then my sister invited me to an event. She was actually in a mastermind and she had an extra ticket to an event that was down in Boston. And so she lives in southwest of France. So she flew in from France and I flew in from Canada and we met in Boston and we went to this retreat. And in the retreat, and it's a live event, the person that was running it did a meditation. And I don't talk about this moment actually, but it was like this amazing light bulb moment where I had been talking about health and nutrition and I had been talking, about cooking and I was showing people like why, if why you need to eat kale or why flax meal is so great for you and all the different, great foods out there. And she had us go into this meditation. And in the meditation, I just had this vision of one of my kids, and he's standing in his little white diaper. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's the moment. That's the woman I need to be talking to, was who I was at that moment. And I was probably about um, 29, 30 at the time. And I thought there are women who are in this depleted, absolutely exhausted state who need somebody who is going to be their voice for them. Because I felt like at that moment in my life, I didn't have a voice. I really didn't. I was very tired. I was exhausted. My body was depleted, just like you were talking about climbing on that mountain. And
Yeah.
it was like, oh my gosh, that's the person I need to be speaking to. And what I didn't realize at that moment was that I completely depleted my body,
Mhm.
and realized that that was the person I needed to be talking to, was that person who had been a former version of me, in that moment. And so I always, whenever I think about it, I always see this little belly and this little diaper, and
Yeah.
it always brings me right back to that's the person I need to be helping. That's the one who felt like she didn't have a voice anymore, who felt like she was completely lost in being a mom and just absolutely exhausted. And I thought that's the person I need to reach.
I love that. Oh,
Yeah.
beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. What are some of the symptoms? Like, I know you offer different, you do one on one coaching, you have workshops and different programs. And I'm just curious with the different things that you've offered and the different women that you've worked with, what are some of the symptoms that you've seen that you've been able to help women with?
Um, a lot of women, it's funny because I was just on a call with somebody the other day and she said, it's not me, is what she kept saying. Like, I'm like this, but it's not me. And as much as I always say I'm not a weight loss coach, people ultimately want to lose weight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and there's a ripple effect when people start paying attention to their energy. So sometimes they'll be like, I'm absolutely exhausted, and I've gained this weight. I have the worst brain fog in the world, and I feel like my brain's like a pinball machine, and
Yeah.
I'd like to lose some weight. But I am not sleeping well, and that is affecting how my energy, and that's affecting my appetite, and that's affecting my cravings. So then I'm gaining weight. So I find that it's those three. It's the brain fog,
Okay.
it's the lack of, it's the sleep, whether they're having trouble falling asleep or staying asleep, and then the energy. So
Right.
like I always say, let's pick one and work on one, and then there is a not a little, there's a, a big ripple effect into all those other symptoms. But those are the top three I would say: is brain fog, like this brain fog, scattered thoughts, kind of restless feeling,
Yeah.
um, and then not being able to sleep again, probably because they're feeling restless and not being able to not feeling great in their mind. So they can't turn their that whirly brain off, and then
Right.
the low energy, just feeling absolutely exhausted.
Yeah. And I know, like, speaking from experience, being in that 40 plus category, oh my goodness, like, it's like you're relearning your body all over again with what we go through during this stage of life. So,
That's really
and
great.
yeah, those 3 things that you had said are definitely 3 big ones
Yeah,
that, come up that you have to deal with and figure out, "Okay, what was working in the past is not working now," and or like, yeah, like sleep stuff, like, I'd never struggled with that before until menopause started, and it's like, "Oh boy, yeah, relearning my body."
yeah, yeah, exactly. Relearning your body. That's it's huge, and not beating yourself up because you're like, I just don't get it. Like, why did it work before and it's not working now? What's happened? What's happened to me?
Yeah, I love that, not beating yourself up, and I love that at this stage, like, we're starting to talk about it a lot more, and I know we need to talk about it more and more and more, that, more women need to understand kind of what's going on. Because I know I've talked to women who get to this stage of life, and it's like, "What is happening to me? Am I going crazy?" You know, and they're very panicky and not realizing that it's menopause symptoms. 'Cause it
Right.
can be so different for everybody
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
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 What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see women making in your industry of health and
Hmm.
wellness?
Um, I would have to say not realizing that there's a yin and a yang in our bodies and our lives and every way we approach everything. I mean, there's light and there's dark, right? There's hot and there's cold. And that's why, and when women said, "Oh my gosh, I have a hot flash and I'm super hot, and then I have to take my stuff off and then I get cold," and it's like, yeah, there's a there's a yin and a yang. And it's not realizing that if we push our bodies, because we're women, right? And women are doers. We are running around for 1,000 other people. Quite often, women are putting themselves not first. I actually get women to do a values list. And when we sit down, we do the values list. I'm like, okay, so what are all the things that you do? And so they list it all, and I'm like, okay, so and who you do it for? And they write down all the different people they do it for, and never is are they on the list. Who do you do
Mm,
things for? You never do things for yourself. And so I think the biggest mistake that women make is that they don't realize that there's this balance of light and dark and cold and hot, and that they need to, if they're expelling energy and they're making food for women, for other people, they are exercising for themselves, and they're sweating, that they are thinking, and that they're working, and they're making money, and they're serving other people. There needs to be another side to that. There needs to be a recovery period for themselves. There needs to be a moment when they take a yoga class with you. There needs
mm,
to be time when they say, you know what, it's 8 o'clock at night, and I'm going to go draw a bath, and I'm going to put some Epsom salts in there, and I'm going to do something for me. We're not very good. And I mean, we're talking about self care. This is more than self care. This is realizing that, hey, I did a workout today, and I always tell people, if you have a workout, you need to have two recoveries in there then. And they're like, what? I'm like, you just pushed a lot of energy out of your body and you sweat. Now you need to replenish that. You need to put the salt back in your body. So go and have an Epsom salt bath and put some salt back in your body. Go in and sit and listen to some music, do some stretching. You need to counter something that you actually did that was good for you,
right.
but we're not very good at making sure that we put that back into our body and thinking about it in those terms. And I think that's the mistake that we're making, especially in the wellness space, is that we're not realizing that there has to be something that goes back in once we put
Mm,
out.
I really like that. Yeah, that's great. Um, I don't want to take up more of your time. You know, we wanted to try to keep this short and
Yeah.
sweet, but I just want to ask, is there any final message that you would like to pass along to other women?
I think just reiterating what we spoke about earlier, in that women's bodies are, I also, your body is beautiful. It knows what it's doing. We just need to stop and listen to it a little bit more and realize that we are all different, that our bodies are all different, and not to beat yourself up if you're trying a workout, a way of eating that your sister tried or your best friend tried and it's not working for you, to just realize that you just need to stop for a moment and just listen to your body and ask it. does this feel good? Does this feel good to me? If it doesn't, then don't do it and try something else. So just don't beat yourself up. Just listen to your own body and realize that your body is beautiful and it's doing these different things. It's sending us the brain fog and the
Yeah.
all those symptoms for a reason.
Yeah.
And that you can figure it out. You're smart.
Yeah.
You can figure it all out.
And there's great support out there like yourself to help you figure that out and having somebody on your side
Yes.
to help carry you along. Yeah. Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for
Oh,
coming here and talking to me. And I will share your contact information with everybody with where I'm sharing this. So just watch for that. And you can get in touch with Stephanie to see what her offerings are. So thanks for being here again.
thank you,
And
Carrie.